Hello, buenas tardes, LEC community. I am Delia, your High Impact Practice Director at the LEC. Welcome to our Ask an Educator series, where we amplify, celebrate, spotlight all Latinx educators and their leadership journeys in genius. Here at the LEC, we work hard to increase the representation of Latinx educators K through 12. Thank you for tuning in live with us today or a hashtag replay. Please engage with us in the comments, click like and share, tag some folks that you feel like can connect with us as we're engaging in a wonderful conversation. And without further ado, we have Reyna Guerra-Vega, and I'm gonna let her talk a little bit more about herself. I'm getting to know her too tonight. So tell us, who are you? Where are you from? Who are your people? Yes.
Ooh, that's a great question. My name's Reyna Guerra-Vega. I'm 33, born and raised out here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm from a small town outside of Phoenix, Arizona, but I say Phoenix because it's still considered the Phoenix metro area. And gosh, who am I? That's a great question. I'm of Mexican-American descent. All my family's born and raised here in Arizona. So if anything, we've been tied to the land for centuries. Everyone's just always been here: Tucson, Arizona, Tempe, Arizona, and Southern California. So, and I got to know you through my friend, Selena Peña.
Yes. And she was showing some love here. She said, hi.
Yes, it's Peña. I love Peña.
Yes, she highly recommended that we have a conversation with you. You know, I think I told her the same thing. So in this case, the border moved on y'all and your people. I don't know why I imagined you in the Northland. And I said the same thing.
In the where?
Peña, like in the Northland, like Detroit, Chicago, like.
I lived in Northern California for a while. I lived in the Bay Area for about 5 years. That's actually where I started my education career. I knew I wanted to work in education, and I felt like I was stagnating here in Arizona. I wasn't really able to find my space. Things just weren't working very well for me. And my friend had got a job with an app out in the Bay. And she was like, do you want to come to the Bay? And I was like, I do want to come to the Bay Area. So armed with nothing but a bachelor's degree, $500, and interviews lined up, I went to the Bay. And I ended up getting a really great job at Fremont High in East Oakland. Shout out East Oakland.
Oakland.
I worked there for 4 years, and I loved it. I absolutely treasured every moment of it, and it's got a very special place in my heart.
Awesome. So from Phoenix to Oakland, back to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And how do you engage in your community again?
I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher here. I teach geometry, intermediate algebra, and financial applications for students in the resource program. My master's degree is special education. So nice. I teach the math for special education. And I also co-teach intermediate algebra as well. So that's what I do. That's how I engage my community. I also run a nonprofit called Queer in Arizona, or Queer Arizona, for queer folks to engage in a way that's not just surrounding bars and clubs.
Nice. I love it.
I do a lot of things.
That's so cool. Yes, many hats. Yes. Educators, we can do it all, really. Seriously.
Truly.
And then if we're moms on top of that, or parenting, right?
Yeah, I do have a 15-year-old son, and he's pretty awesome. I like him a lot. He's pretty great. I love him. So
I have a son too. So they're special.
They are.
My only child, so he's 7 and just wonderful. Wonderful.
He's my one and only as well. He's pretty great.
Yes.
He's awesome.
Well, tell us a little bit more about your leadership journey, right? So I know you brought up a little bit, you were in Oakland for a bit, you come back, you're in math, not my favorite subject, but hey, math has language too, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
But yeah, talk about more about your upbringing and maybe your journey as a student.
Right.
Anything that you feel that has led you up to this point of being an awesome math educator.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know if I'm exactly. I feel like I'm pretty awesome, but that's just me about me. I don't know how others perceive me in the classroom. I'm definitely different from a lot of the teachers I have grown up with and were and currently engage with. I am not an old school teacher. I am not a sit down, be quiet, get off your phone type of teacher. I'm very relaxed. I'm just like, there's not a lot that really bothers me. I have a student who consistently roasts me and I roast him back. And I'm just like, this is how we work. You and I work like this. And they're like, dang, that didn't hurt. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I know what he's doing. It's okay. I'll get him later. So what has led me to teach? I started out in political science when I went to college. By the time I entered ASU, I went to Arizona State. I was already a mom. I was a mom very young in my life. So I was trying to just figure out like what would give me the most money, right? And in my mind, being a lawyer would. And I wasn't passionate about it the way I thought I would be. I didn't succeed in a way that I thought I would. High school was so easy for me, and I struggled heavily in college in that first few years. I just couldn't find my groove between having a newborn, between juggling school, between feeling like I was obligated to do things for my family. I just really struggled with finding the balance and finding my groove. So I eventually got kicked out of ASU because I couldn't keep my grades up. I took some time off. I kind of just took a class here, a class there, things that I enjoyed, like theater and things like that. And I came back and found out what worked for me was I had to be in school Tuesday, Thursday, all day long, 9 to 9, and that worked. So I was able to get my son to where he was going to be for the day, whether that was with my grandparents, my mom, or he was at a daycare, which my grandparents consistently took him out of. This happens every time. It's on a timer. Watch this. This is what I have to do. This is what we have to do because it's on a timer. That's just conserving energy. But what we ended up, that ended up working for me. I finally graduated and I was like, all right, let's practice law. Let's try working in law firms. And I hated it. I absolutely hated every second of it. People were backstabby. They were not in it for each other. They were in it to represent these corporations who were doing really bad things. And I was like, I can't do this. So I hopped around and I remembered that I really enjoyed working in classrooms as a college kid. I really enjoyed working and tutoring with students. So I was like, let me give this a shot. I became a long-term sub for a self-contained special education classroom, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. We had the freedom to do things differently. We could do things like that weren't just pen and paper and sit in your desk. We could take a walk outside and do a scavenger hunt. We had art therapy. We had a dance class. It was awesome. So I decided to pursue that, and that led me to Oakland and the things I mentioned before. And in Oakland, I grew so much as a person and a professional. I was away from my family for like the first time ever. And one of the things I found was I found community. I met people who were just like me who were principals, who were admin, who were working in the district. And it was a beautiful city of just this wonderful mix of brown folks, Black folks, Asian folks, Native folks, and everyone was there. Everyone's there. And I worked on a campus that represented that community as well. And it was beautiful for me to see. I'd never been on a campus like that, where our teachers represented our students. We looked just like each other. And I had I had several bosses who, all my admin were wonderful, and they pushed me to like, I think you should join this program. Go get your like California credential to teach, and it's for Latin teachers. It's called Maestros, and they'll pay for your first semester of school. And after I got that first semester paid, I had gotten good grades, and California took care of the rest because I got good grades. Yeah, I did not pay for my master's degree. It was an amazing experience. I had wonderful teachers at the school that I worked, or at the school I worked at the school I was learning from. And it was awesome again. I had teachers who were professors just like me. Dr. Gamora was one of my doctorate educators. And I was like, we do this. And it was finally seeing the representation that I was like, this is so important for my kids and for me as well, to be like, you get me. So I had wonderful leaders. I had support. I had support in a way that wasn't just my professional growth. They cared about me as a person and my work, and they noticed that it was really important for me to be good at my job. They're like, do you want extra training in this and that? And yeah, they offered it to me. I got a coach to help me learn IEPs. I could write a California IEP like nobody's business.
Wow.
I was like, I write solid IEPs. I was like, I do. Now that I'm back in Arizona, I'm like, I don't know what this program is. It's a new program, new system. So I'm learning. But I think what really led me to be where I'm at is I had wonderful leaders in front of me that I was like, I want to be like you. I even texted my old boss the other day, Nidia Valles, and I said, I want to say thank you for what you offered me, for what you gave me. You put me onto maestros. You put me onto so many things in the community where I was actually involved, and we were not just servers of that community. Like Arizona sees teachers as servants of a community and not a part of it. Oakland was the other way around. We were a part of the community. It was all of us. And that really helped, that mentality of us versus us over everything. And we would even say that it's us first, us over everything. It's us and how we connect and how we make sure that we take care of each other over everything else. And I thought that was beautiful. So I think having people who were supportive, having people who saw me and were like, I know your world. My world is the same. And responding to it in a way that made sense to me. So usually it was over food. My IEP coach would be like, we're going on we have an off-campus meeting. And I was like, okay. And they'd be like, you're going to Sequoia, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, the diner that we would all go to. And I was like, yep, off-campus meeting, which means we're getting coffee at Sequoia. So I had really great leaders. I had a great team. I had great friends who were all going for the same thing as well. We're all, my friends' families they're all children of immigrants. My family, while we're not immigrants ourselves, since the border has crossed us, we face very similar things. Access to education, access to jobs in higher ed and jobs that pay higher. We face very similar situations. So we come from the same world. And so it was nice to have this group of friends that understood. It was an awesome time.
What I hear is a community of visibility.
Yeah.
Of belonging, of, though you may not have that label or identity of first generation immigrant, those barriers are very similar. And so I could definitely connect and resonate with your story on the part of leaving home. I was born and raised in Chicago, moved to Kansas City. And what's interesting is it was, I would say, a flip. I grew up in a predominantly Latinx community. The face of all the leadership were Puerto Rican or Mexican. I'm Puerto Rican and Mexican. My community was very much Puerto Rican and Mexican. My high school principal, shout out Dr. Scoitia. I always shout her out just in case she's listening.
Yeah.
Dr. Scoitia was my principal. Ms. Alvarez was the assistant principal.
Awesome.
Dr. Collazo was an assistant principal. I could go on and list all the beautiful, Latinx or Spanish surnames, because that representation was there, even in the local political world. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Luis Gutierrez in Humboldt Park. He was a congressman, big for, immigration reform. Like, that's what I was raised around. And so I come to Kansas City and I noticed the lack of representation. I mean, literally, students I mean, the representation is at 1%, and 1 in 3 schools in the area do not even have a teacher of color in their building, like in the metro. Yeah,
doesn't surprise me. Not
but there is a good amount of like students of color here. That's the thing, is like that's why we do what we do, right?
It is.
But thank you for sharing that. I definitely, you know, there's some differences, but lots of similarities, and that I miss that community of visibility, right? Like a lot of my colleagues and friends and folks that I meet that are my age, their story is usually, I never had a teacher of color, or I had one. I'm like, dang, I had a lot.
Yeah.
I had a lot from K through 12, even my time at the University of Illinois in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
I had a whole Latino studies department, most likely taught a humanities course, except for my economics class. She's from Chile. But yes, there was even there was an underrepresentation there, but the courses I took obviously were taught by a lot of Latinx professors. So shout out to our people.
Yeah, shout out maestros, like doing the thing and putting Latin teachers in Latin communities. There also is this, I don't know if they've created it already, but there was they were starting right before COVID to create a program for Black male teachers to go into a program called African American Male Achievement, AAMA, and to increase the amount of Black teachers that we have on campus as well, especially Black male teachers. That representation is so powerful, especially for my boys. None of my boys, in Oakland, my program was 90% male. 90% male and 99% African American. Like they, my students were.
You gotta wave.
Here we go. I think the over classification of special education and ADHD and things like that within the Black and Latin community was definitely there. I would be like, I was like, he doesn't have ADHD. He's just experienced some things that causes his attention to withdraw. So instead of, giving him the supports he needed as a young man who had experienced trauma, we would label him as ADHD and a problem.
Oh man!
And that happened very consistently with my young men, my kids in my class. And so if I had more males on campus who looked just like them, then maybe it would begin to change. So I would love to see that kick off the way Maestros did, because Maestros is taking off and it's continuing. And when I eventually go back to Oakland, I will absolutely go to one of their fundraisers just to spread the love, support the next generation of Latin teachers.
It's needed, definitely needed. In Kansas City, they have there's an organization called BLOC, and it's Black Men Liberating Our Communities, and their focus is on having the supports and increasing the representation of Black male educators. The next question I have is, what are some hurdles in your career that have made following your dream of becoming a special ed math teacher, a little more difficult? I know you mentioned like you're so grateful. You said in a lot of gratitude about that community in Oakland and your upbringing and your career. Now you're happy. You found your passion.
I did.
What were some of those hurdles that you've had to overcome? And maybe barriers.
I struggled with my mental health when I was younger, and I had no idea that's what it was. I thought I was crazy. I had no idea. So access to understanding mental health and how it works within our community, that would have been great. Would have been awesome to start therapy younger and not have this like inner struggle all the time with anxiety, with depression, with my attention and how it like doesn't work all the time. It just doesn't happen. So that would have been great if we as a community validated mental health as important, and rest as equally important. We have this thing where if we're not moving all the time, if we're not productive, we're not doing enough. My grandma's 75 and she's still like, oh, I have to do something. I was like, why, Ma? Why?
Yeah.
You're 75. You raised 4 children and helped raise all of us. There's 12 grandkids, and she is helping raise her great grandson and many great grandkids. There's, I think, 10 great grandkids now. So I'm like, Mother, you are working, you are doing something, and you're so valuable just being. Maybe that understanding of self-worth would have been great as well. There was the obvious hurdle of access to finances. I lived in the middle of nowhere. I wear boots and jeans to work. My students are like, where are you from? And I'm like, soy de rancho. Like, we have chickens, we have turkeys. My dad's buying a cow. Like, I'm from the boondocks. I live on a dirt road. I was like, I'm a country kid. And so we didn't have access to like jobs just out and available. So that kind of put us behind in terms of creating a savings account, learning how to use money, becoming a good employee and how we worked. Also lack of, as we are in Arizona, just a lack of understanding of communities of color and supports for communities of color and what that looks like. If we had had maestros in Arizona, I can guarantee you maestros would be Arizona teachers would be in a better space, and Arizona communities would be in a better space. If we had programs that were supportive, especially for our Native American population. Our Native brothers and sisters make up so much of our ELL program. When students come in to EL programs in Arizona, they're not only speaking Spanish, they're speaking Dene. That's Navajo. So it would be great to have representation for our Native people as well. Yeah. It's funny, like just that understanding would have been great. It's one of the reasons I tell my friends, anyone I talk to about local politics, if your politicians are talking about safety but don't talk about access to basic needs as a part of their safety program, and they're just talking about an increase in cops, they don't care about safety, they care about control. And I don't care about control. I don't. I want to make sure my kids are safe. And if we had had access to these basic things like mental health supports and knowledge of that, like jobs, like, programs that would support communities of color, we would have this advancement that we see in other spaces.
I am loving listening to you because it aligns so much with like who you are. So your hurdles of lack of access or lack of financial support, like you are so passionate about teaching math, and you have like a financial course, right? You're like this, and this is why it's like a perfect fit for you. And I think you also mentioned, some of my hurdles were that I had mental health, right? I had some mental health concerns, and I didn't know how to navigate that. And you work with the special ed students where they're constantly misdiagnosed or overly labeled, or what's the word? Disproportionately, disproportionately recommended, and for an IEP, etc. Wow.
Thank you. In terms of that financial course too, like regarding that, I actually met with a friend of mine who is a financial advisor, and I called her because I was like, excuse me, I have hiccups. The curriculum that was given to me was Dave Ramsey. I immediately saw his name and I tossed that. I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not teaching his shit ever. That guy's trash. I was like, not doing it. And he also openly says sexist things, and it makes my girls feel super uncomfortable. They're like, they're warned at the beginning of the videos by other educators, like, yeah, he's going to say some things that are like sexist. And I was like, nah, then it shouldn't be taught.
Right.
Shouldn't be taught. Right. If you're going to, you can't be like, oh, it's lightly racist, but just, no. You have to like bring that to attention. Like, this is racist. We don't need to operate off of those ideals. So I called her because she is such a brilliant mind. I love hearing her talk. She's a Black woman in the financial sector who talks about, this is how this works, and let me help you. And she gave me all this great advice. And now I'm here like, yo, I'm going to open a savings account here.
I know.
Now I'm learning too, through my students.
Yes.
I'm learning through them. And I did tell them, I said, I'll be very clear with you. I'm not passionate about math at all. I really don't care. Not much I care about. I care about you. I care about you getting out of this place so that you can achieve what you want to achieve, your version of excellence. I frame it this way. Are we offering opportunities, or are we instituting obstacles? And as we are going through, like,
wait, say that again.
Are we offering opportunities, or are we instituting obstacles? Opportunities and obstacles. When they tell me, oh, you have to do this, opportunity
right.
or obstacle?
I like that.
Yeah, I was like, we can offer them opportunities, right? Take this course, do this, whatever. At some point, it becomes an obstacle. You have to do this. That's also because Arizona does not offer alternative tracks for students with special needs. Everyone is on the same track, and I think that's wrong. I think you should be offering a multitude of tracks. Education is not one size fits all.
Right.
And that's why I teach the way I teach. Like on my wall, there's posters. We write on the walls. We write on things here. They play with kinetic sand. They play with Play-Doh. Whatever you need, I'll offer it.
I've also seen a huge movement in the last decade of just restructuring how classrooms are. You know, I remember, I think it was about 6 years ago, I didn't want desks anymore because it was hard to even put them in groups of 4. Like I had them all facing each other. I was like, this is so uncomfortable for me. Like, so I asked for tables and chairs. And so I allowed them to sit in pairs, right? Sit in 4s, right? And I taught language. I taught Spanish 1 and 2, the novice levels. And I was like, you know, there's a lot of interpersonal skills. There's a lot of reciprocation, lots of back and forth.
Right.
So how can I seat them where they're going to easily have conversation, right?
Right.
So speaking of students and you know, our environment, what keeps you going? Like, I know you said you had a son. I know you have a grandmother.
I love
grandmother that really took care of you.
Oh yeah, she's.
What do you say keeps you going?
Oh man, I have a deep desire to see things change, and it is not within me. It won't change with me. It changes by extending what I know. It changes by offering them something maybe they didn't think about. It changes by every day. I have a journal prompt. Today was write 3 compliments to yourself. It changes by when I go to their desk and I check off that they did their journal. I'm like, what's your 3 compliments? Tell me about it. They're like, oh, I'm tall. I'm handsome. Yeah, you are. I'm smart. Yeah, you are. You know, I got the juice. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You know, I have a great desire to see things change. I believe in change. I believe that we can become different as a society and as a culture. And I believe it's with them that it changes. Reyna knows how to make. Thank you, Reyna. I do my best. Yeah. I also let them speak how they want. I'm not going to curb your language. I'm not going to police your situations. If you believe that this truly is a bullshit assignment, tell me.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, miss, this is ass. I know. I don't like this assignment either, but we have to be tested on it, and I'm gonna give it to you the best way I can.
Right.
I believe that. Have you ever seen the movie The Guardian? Have you seen the movie with Ashton Kutcher and Kevin Costner? And it's about Coast Guards. And this guy swims for the Coast Guard. And he says when you're saving people, right, when you're pulling them out of the water, a lot of these kids are drowning. He says, how do you know who to save? He says, you save who you can in as much time as you can. And that's what we do.
Yeah.
You don't stop.
A little shout out to Dr. Clark. He says, love her attitude and desires. Or desire more educators need it. Yes, he's an educator.
Yeah, honestly, I've told him, I was like, I really don't care about the math. I care about you. I did not come here to be like, math is so great. It's not. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, nobody cares. What I care about is you and getting you the support you need to do what you want to do with your life. It's your world. I always tell them that it's your world.
Yeah.
It's your world. Do it. Do what you want.
Yes.
Keeps me going. It's fun.
Oh, I love kids when they're they teach us so much.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. Don't give them enough credit. They definitely shape us. They definitely help us become better humans, even, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they'll ever know their impact. Oh, thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I do have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
You know, Latinx educators are the fastest growing demographic of educators in the country right now. But unfortunately, we're also some of the quickest to leave the education industry, with 3 years being the average amount of time spent in the classroom compared to the national average of 5 years. Why do you think this is? And what advice would you give a Latinx educator listening right now that might be struggling?
Right.
Might be on that third year.
Yeah. So I took a little bit of a break after my fourth year. It wasn't fitting for me, right? It wasn't working. And I lost my mother at that point too. So it was just like everything was rough. So I think a lot of that is attributed to one, we don't have community for ourselves. Our community faces different things, and we need a community of people who understand exactly what we're going through and how to respond in a way that's, like we talk about in the classroom, culturally responsive. We need our communities. The only way I survived was through Nidia and Christian and Amy. That's how I survived. Those were my people. The only way I survived was having a community of people who really understood me and responded. I would say find your people. Find your people. You will survive when you find your community. I've met great people here at this new job. My cheerleaders are practicing. I'm not sure if you can hear them, but they are definitely practicing.
I love it. It's all good.
they're right out here. But I've met wonderful people here who all are very passionate about, like, it's not about the content, it's the kids. And once you find people who share your philosophies and also want to work with you and not in competition with you, that's a great thing. Like my friends and I have a Google Drive, and we've shared everything we bought from Teachers Pay Teachers. It's all in a massive Google Drive, but we just share whatever we buy, we throw it in there.
Yes.
Access
you know, that piece is so important, you know, even our own, like, two things. When you say find your people, like, I interviewed Dr. Florencio, I think it's Uranda out of Texas. And he talked about, like, you know, when I say my people, yes, I mean my, you know, my Mexicano people, my you know, Latinx people, but it also could be others that have shaped you and mentored you along the way. They don't necessarily have to fit your ethnic group. But you know, I don't know. It might sound silly, but Brene Brown talks about, like, vulnerability, and she mentioned something in a talk she gave. She goes, you know, I research vulnerability and shame, but I can't stand it, right? Like, it's uncomfortable. I have to lean into discomfort every time. And she said something like, sometimes I'd rather just go and run and, you know, eat a bucket of ice cream. And then is that anybody in here? And people were like, yeah, Mimi. She goes, you are my people. And when she said that, it made me giggle, because it's like, yes, I have a lot of people, right? Like, we have folks that we connect with. And the other thing was, oh gosh, when you mentioned the value of, like, it's not about math, it's about
you.
It's about and it's about that connection that we have with folks. So educators listening, definitely find those people that could support you. And the LEC is here for all educators. You know, our team has grown. Join us. We're going to have our 5th annual Evolucion where you can engage virtually and in person. And there's going to be time for networking. And Reyna, I'll tell you, when I found the LEC, like, I connected with the LEC during one of the most toughest years in my teaching career. I dedicated 16 years to a school district. And so I surpassed that 3-year. Lots of barriers.
Yeah.
Lots of hurdles. And you know what kept me going? Same thing, like, you know, that drive to change, right? To change what's there, to be that role model that I know. Alexa thinks I'm talking to her. Alexa, do not disturb. All right. So I love hearing your cheerleaders, by the way, in the background.
They're hilarious. I don't know why they have to practice right in front, but it's like, whatever. They're gonna be great.
What grades do you teach again? I'm not
10
sure.
through 12. 10 through 12.
Oh, 10 through 12. So it's high school. Nice.
High school. Yep. Yeah.
Yes. Oh man. If you had one thing that you wanted all of your students to walk away from your class, what would that be?
You're worth it. No matter what it is, you're worth it. You're worth it. Don't accept any less. Don't let people talk to you any type of way. One of my students, her boss was texting her hella crazy in my class, and I was like, nah, you don't gotta take that. No, she's gonna fire me. Let her. Then she'll be short-staffed. Joke's on her. I was like, nah, you're worth it. You're worth people treating you right. You're worth a good salary. You're worth the time and effort that someone says they want to put into you, and that to be consistent. You're worth it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's a beautiful way to close out. And you're right. You're absolutely right. You know, there's folks that are applying for anytime we apply for jobs, right? Like right now in the teaching career, especially, like I was coaching a young teacher recently, and she's like, I'm just going to take the offer if they take it. I said, no, you could ask questions. You could ask questions. You can ask them what practices do they have for blah, blah, blah. Whatever questions are coming up for you,
right?
You could ask, because they need you.
Right?
Like they need you, and you want to make sure that you align with their vision, their mission, or, you know, the values, right, that are holding in that school building. And you could push and ask those difficult questions. But oftentimes I think our people sometimes think like, no, me van a dar el trabajo, and that's it.
Yeah.
No, but you're worth it.
Yeah, you're worth it. Yeah, I was like, don't let her talk to you like that. Oh, she's going to fire me. Let her. Then she's not going to have no one.
Oh, Laura just said that. She said, my husband told me at the beginning of this year, what's the worst that's going to happen? Are they going to fire you? They need you. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I told my students the other day. We talked about confidence, and I was like, I naturally just assume I know what I'm doing all the time. Not because I do, but I'm just like, yeah, I got this. But I know for sure, even like in terms of my job here, I'm like, I teach special education math. You need me.
Yes.
I have a math endorsement.
Oh, yes.
I was like, sorry, like if you don't like that, like we're gonna have to work that out.
Here's a funny one. A new superintendent came in, new leadership. Yeah. This was about 4 years ago. And he came in with like, it still makes me feel some kind of way in my body, but new board configurations, he called them. And so people were like tripping about it. He said he wants the current date written on your whiteboard. Okay. Your standard reference, the outcome or the objective, the focus question, and an agenda format. And every day, every hour, every class, like it had to be there. and your lessons had to be at the door. And so what's funny is like everybody was up in arms in the building. I'd say, okay, not everybody, let's say 75 to 80% of the teachers were like, oh my God, I don't have time. I have it in Google Classroom. I have it in my slides. Why do I have to have it on my board? Right. And then teachers that decorate their rooms, they're like, oh, I gotta, you know. Redecorate. And I said, what's gonna happen? So pretend I'm him or pretend I'm the principal, Reyna. Why? I noticed in my walkthrough that your board configuration was not up to date. What would you respond, Reyna?
That sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
you know,
sorry, friend.
So I
like, what you want?
So I walked around just for fun, just being a friend to people. Like, what would you say?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I forgot. Okay. Well, what do you think they're gonna say? Oh, well, make sure you have it up next time. Okay, bye, deuces.
Yeah, bye.
Right? Like, and then I would ask the teachers, like, are they gonna spank you?
Yeah.
Are they gonna physically beat you? Are they gonna like arrest you? Are they gonna fire you? Like, think about it.
Right.
Like don't let this stress you out. Just teach the kids, have fun with them, like be engaged with them.
Yeah, it's outrageous. I was like, no, you crazy. I was like, there's very few things, and I view it this way. There's very few things I have to do. I have to eat, sleep, and occasionally use a bathroom. Everything else. Yeah. I was like, if it's not going to fit my world, my ADHD self does need like the agenda, because if I walk into a space and don't know what's going on, I'm out. Bye.
Yeah.
I want kids knowing exactly what they're walking into. So I have an agenda, and it's literally 2 things. But I have my I can statement, just because I have crazy ADHD and it won't work if I
keeps you focused, right? It keeps you like, oh yeah, what are we doing? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, because I teach 3 different classes, so I'm like, shit, what hour are we in? I'm like,
oh yeah.
I'm not. Today I realized, for example, I didn't give one class the notes, and then when they were hella lost on their game, I was like, did I give you notes? And they were like, no, miss, there's no notes. And I was like, it's because it wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't build it up in your head. Don't let it stress you out. Enjoy your time with them.
Absolutely.
You're going to enjoy it if
That's
you do.
Great. That is some great advice. Thanks again. And Dr. Clark, thank you. He says, know your worth.
Yeah, know your worth.
Remember, yes, from Reyna G.
Reyna G. That's what my students have written on the, hold on. They call me Miss G. And so, Miss G, she's an OG.
Nice. The OG. I love it.
They know.
Yes.
They know.
Of course. Well, LEC community, thank you for tuning in for this Ask an Educator series with Reyna Guerra-Vega. I just dropped the link to Evolucion. Remember to register, invite a friend, etc. Reyna, I'll see you in community very soon.
Yeah.
Everybody have a good evening.
Bye.